What's up, everybody? Maik Wiedenbach here. Happy Thursday from New York City. Question I get a lot is, what workout should I do for fat loss or for building muscle? Well, whether you train for fat loss or for building muscle, you got to do one thing and one thing only, and that's contract the muscle as hard as you can, right? If you can't do that, then your workout is wasted. So that brings me to the next point. The key to any workout is mastery of execution. Meaning you can have the greatest workout ever, written by me. If you can't execute, then you're like, Joey from The Office, who's there all day but doesn't do anything, he's just there, okay? So today we'll talk about execution and what it means, and for the big four. What are the big four? Squat, hip hinge, push, and pull, right? So those are the four movement patterns you should do on a weekly basis, at least twice. So here's what happens, right? So squat, yeah, bro, let's squat, okay? Well, here's the problem. Most people, when they squat, right, it looks like something like this, okay? So now a person who can't do that, you cannot load that person and he cannot create tension in the quads and glutes. So that person, for instance, be better off using, said, leg press. And then you could toy around, with the intention from the heel and going close, working more on the quads. Could be going higher, working more on the glutes, have an inward intention for the hamstrings. And then as flexibility also improves, you can actually do squats. But again, if you can't create tension, it's all null and void. So the other thing would be, what I'm very fond of is, because what does it mean to squat? You train your glutes and your quads, right? So you could do a cable lunge where you are very upright, working the quad, or you'd be falling forward, working more on the glute. Again, there wouldn't be a risk of the bar on your shoulders and so on and so forth. Then the second movement pattern is hip hinge, also known as the deadlift. Deadlifts, good mornings. All right, deadlifts, right? Here's what happens most of the time. Candy cane, yo, 315, bro. Yeah. All right, stop, okay? You're just blowing out your vertebrae. So, first things first. What's it gonna be, lower back or glutes? If it's glutes, then the hips go back, go until about here. If it's lower back, you're coming down slowly, but the hips stay kind of in place. And again, if that is something that is not in your repertoire yet, by all means, try one of my favorites, the cable deadlift. I'm like this, pull up the toes, make it more hamstring intensive, or put the toes down, stay up taller, and it's more lower back. And for the upper body, there are two movement patterns, right? So one is pulling, where you have vertical and horizontal. So, everybody always says bend over row, bend over row. Well, here's the thing though. Most people, I'm just using dumbbells, but you get the idea. When they do a bend over row, they look like something like this, or they can't really stay down, they're not flexible enough, or they're spending too much time balancing. So that person be much better off doing a single arm row, something like this. It is not a proper setup, I apologize, but you get the idea. Where you would be pulling at a slight angle into the hip. Or, my favorite, you could be doing cables, sit down, turn the hand, drop the shoulder, lock the shoulder, pull back, and squeeze tight. And then for the vertical pull, everybody and their grandmother always says pull-ups, right? Pull-ups, 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 pull-ups. And so let's go to the videotape. So, I can pull myself up. It's fine. I can even just like Branch Warren, put some sort of a chain around my neck, very manly, pull myself up again. But what I cannot do is this and this. So I'm lacking tension. Whereas if I build up something like this, I turn and I squeeze behind, almost trying to bring my elbows together. Now I got something. Now can I effectively train my lats. And then the last one is pushing, right? So again, there's two planes of motion. One is overhead. So overhead pressing, due to computer and what have you, most people do this. They can't do this. If your shoulder is this stiff, you have no business of pressing overhead. It's gonna get injured. Doesn't mean you can't train your shoulders? No, of course not. So, let's think about it. So the shoulder, technically 7 heads, right? Front, medial, rear. So, I wanna train this. I wanna shove this into this, right? So how do I do this? Well, first of all, I make sure it's on top. So I lean forward a little bit, and now I adduct, right? With a cable or a dumbbell. And then here, for the rear delt, same thing. I shove this into this, which I would do from here to here. And then when flexibility increases, you can absolutely train your shoulders with an overhead press. And then there's the almighty bench press. So the pecs do this, right? Well, this doesn't do that, which means this is merely a tricep and shoulder movement. Now, the remedy, of course, is to have an inward intention, right? So you're trying to warp the bar. But most people can't really do that. So that's why dumbbells are a bit superior, because they leave you with an inward intention, and you have the option of actually squeezing them inward. Or you could use cables. They lend themselves really well. Because they mimic this movement pattern for the pecs. So, as you can see, even I have some striations doing so. How many sets you should do? Well, if you figure an exercise that works for you, do 6 sets or whatever. The way to check it, if you're doing it right, is stop in the middle and see if you actually feel the muscle, okay? So, for instance, if I was doing this, and all of a sudden I bend my elbows, and somebody stops me now, well, I can't really feel my pecs anymore. Then I'm doing it wrong, okay? So, what I'm trying to tell you guys is, you must worry about mastery first. It's like a Bruce Lee movie. If you don't figure out how to do the movement pattern properly, you will just not get gains, okay? So yes, squat, hip hinge, push, pull, that is appropriate, and that's a great overview. But if you do them incorrectly, then it ain't working, okay? Mike out.